Hello, everyone. I want to talk a little bit about pronunciation and contractions with the modals and conditions. So a lot of the materials I've been posting recently have talked about these modals and conditionals. You'll see a page that provides a guide for how to use these, what they mean, things like that, and I'll provide some practice with those. I want to talk, though, especially about the pronunciation of them right now, because sometimes people will see these forms and say, I've never heard could have gone, would have been there, stuff like that. But the reason people think they haven't heard those is the way they sound. They're actually very common. All right, so right now, you see that I'm sharing my screen here. And when we look at this, we see several different things to look at. All right, so notice on this first part, I would help you if I had time becomes I'd help you if I had time. Okay, and I think that's a contraction most of us already know, is that would in these types of present unreal conditions, present or future unreal conditions, becomes I'd, you'd, he'd, we'd, she'd, they'd, they would, they'd, I would, I'd. All right. One thing to notice, though, is that we must pay attention to context. We don't want to just think I'd always means I would, for example. I'd helped you, as we see in the second one, is I had helped you. And it's the grammar that gives us the clue. The modal auxiliary would will be followed by the base form, help. But the past participle, helped, will follow I'd, as in I had. Okay, so the difficult one is when we start talking about past conditions and conditional modals. Okay, these are the famous if you're a native speaker and infamous if you're not a native speaker, woulda, coulda, shoulda. All right, so on number one, you'll notice it says, I would have helped you if I'd known you needed me. Now, I read that the way a computer or a robot would read, just because I wanted to help show what we were talking about and give you a clear, easy to understand pronunciation of the sentence. But a native speaker of English would almost always pronounce this, no matter how it's written, contracted or not, in one of these two ways. The first pattern, I would have helped you. I would have helped you. The second pattern, which you'll probably notice is my preferred pattern as a native speaker, I'd have helped you. All right, so notice I'da and I woulda, rather than I would have helped you. All right. All right. So something we've talked about many times, if you've been in my class for a long time, is the contraction system in English. So as I've mentioned, that's largely a written system to make the language look the way it sounds. In other words, our written contractions, where we put that apostrophe to make something look shorter, represent the way the language normally sounds. So when I say, I'd have helped you, I'm not contracting on purpose in speech. That's just the way the language sounds. The apostrophe, I apostrophe D, is there to make the writing take less time. I'm not trying to save time as a speaker. I'm just speaking English the way it sounds. I'd have helped you. Why does it sound that way? I've mentioned this before, but a good way to think of it is that We have so many auxiliary or helping words in English, like the have in I've seen that movie. All right. So those words are always the words that we're going to contract. We don't contract important words. I mean, primary words, they're all important. All right. But the contraction is not only about speed, it's about emphasis. So if you have someone banging on a drum and you have boom, but in the middle you've got the little sound disappears or seems to disappear. So in something like I would have helped you, it's like I would have helped you. Like the drum. I. It's not that I'm actually speaking really fast, like I would have helped you, I would have helped you, I would have helped you. No, it's I'd have helped you. I would have helped you. I'd have helped you. Notice even when I slow it down, I'm still not saying have. Why not? Because have's the auxiliary here, not the primary verb. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple other examples. Starting with our note here. I would have more money if I spent less on bourbon. I'd have more money. Notice how strong have is there? That's because have is not auxiliary in that sentence. It is the verb. I'd have more money. I can't say I'd have more money because we don't really know what you'd be doing with that money. All right, so notice I'd have helped you. To help is the verb. We've just put it into a conditional form in the past. I'd have more money. Have is the verb. We've put it into the present or future conditional form. All right, so something similar happens with these could words. Could words with the auxiliary could. So you could have won the game if you had committed fewer, that should say fewer, penalties. All right, nobody speaks that way, at least not native speakers. You could have won the game. Could have won the game. You could have won the game, even slowly. You could have won the game. Next, we should have told you earlier. We should have told you, not we should have told you. We should have told you, should have told you. All right. Now look at my note here on could and on should. You could have anything you wanted if you just worked harder. Well, here, have is the verb. We're talking about having something. It's not auxiliary, so we must pronounce it as have. You could have anything. Same with the should next. You should have the pepperoni pizza. It's excellent. All right. Have is actually the verb. Okay. Similar things happen with the modals might and must. All right. You might have won. All right. The verb there is to win. You might have won. It's in the past, though. You might have won. If you'd committed fewer penalties. She broke several bones in her left hand. Her injury must have been excruciating. Must have been. All right, again, to be is the verb, not have. We look, though, at the note, you might have the flu. You might have the flu. Well, have is the verb. It's the primary verb, not auxiliary, not helping. It's the verb. All right. You must have more patience. You must have more patience. All right. Have is the verb. Okay. All right. Well, I hope that's helpful. See you later.